So hi everyone, thank you all so much for coming. My name is Priscilla. I'm the events intern here at KS WELI. We're so excited to have y'all here for our last Empower Hour of this semester, and we can't wait for more next semester. But for this Empower Hour, I wanted to introduce you to Sophia Torres. She is a part of our alumni board, and she will introduce Jessica, and we can kick off the night.
Thank you, Priscilla. So hi, everybody. So glad to have you. As she mentioned, my name is Sophia. I'm part of the alumni board, and I graduated this past May in 2022 from UT, so not too far long ago. But yeah, we're super excited, and we're so excited to have Jessica here with us. Jessica Sutherland is a UT alumni. She has a BFA in design and a minor in entrepreneurship. Jessica is excited to give back to you, a courageous creative who is eager to learn and elevate your branding. And as the KS WELI Creative Design Coordinator, she brings passion and sparkle to help inspire and equip the next generation of women leaders, founders, and creatives. So this is definitely her wheelhouse. And Jessica, take it away. We're so excited to have you.
Hi, it's so nice to be here. So first, I'm going to send a template link. And so this is the full presentation. It just allows you to edit it directly on the presentation. So let me share screen. Oh, it looks like it's disabled. Oh, sorry about that.
Go for it.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, I gotta pick the right one. I think it's this one. Could be wrong. Nope, it's the wrong one. Okay, sorry guys. All right, let me try this one. Oh, okay. I think it's the right one. Okay. So welcome everyone to Empower Hour. Oh, I can hear myself twice. Hopefully it's not on your guys' side, but this is where you get empowered in under 1 hour with the KS WELI, sponsored by the Alumni Board. So first up, we're zooming ahead. A little bit about me. You can call me Jess. This is my brand, if we want to call it that, but it's technically not. But I love design, entrepreneurship, and emojis. It's my jam. I love being with family and friends whenever I can. I live in Dallas, Texas with my husband and cat Belle. That's that little furry, crazy bean right there. And then I am always ready to play a board game or make a puzzle. I really will. I'll bring a board game on the bus with me to play in a restaurant then in Austin. So let's get started. What you're gonna need is a pencil, paper, and your computer. If you don't have one, it's okay, you can do it later. But I just recommend those 3 tools. So let's design your cult branding. So I wanted to start out with where I got the inspiration for the title, which is a company based in Austin. And they talk about the anatomy of a cult brand. And so it's the idea of really rallying people around your brands, your ideas, your culture, defining what your beliefs are, and then taking a stand in what you believe in and your idea and how it's going to change the world. So real quick, can anyone shout out what brand means to you? Or if you don't feel comfortable shouting out, sending it in the chat. That's okay if no one wants to. But anyway, so I hopefully didn't catch anyone in the chat. Oh, what's some of my favorite cult brands? Oh, thank you for asking, Leslie. Ooh, that's really hard. We got to go with Kendra Scott because we're in the KS WELI. I also love a good Starbucks. I think my mom is here, so she works at Starbucks. Got to give a shout out to my mom. Forgot to do that on that slide. Coca-Cola also, I was just told, changed the color of Santa Claus from blue to red. So I think that's pretty powerful. Oh, Leslie says, hi, Mom. Thank you, Aiden. So brand is how customers identify you and identify with you. That's awesome. Thank you. All right, cool. We can keep going forward. So pretty much everything. Oh, wait, sorry. Oh, that's my mom. Okay, so a brand to me means that what comes to mind when you hear a company name, both visually and what their focus is in culture. That's also a good one. So I took this definition from ignite.com. So a brand is the way a product, company, or individual is perceived by those who experience it. It's much more than just a name and a logo. A brand is the recognizable feelings that those assets evoke. So I love this visual because it shows that brand, most of us think when brand, we think of brand identity. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but it's really this full circle experience of what a brand evokes, you know, both visually, but also emotionally and philosophically. So let's jump into that. Okay, so a brand. So if we were to think of how a person interprets a brand, it's kind of like a brand personality. It's what that emotion brings out, the philosophical concepts, while brand identity is the visual component that represents those larger ideas. And the brand identity design is the actual process of creating those visual assets. So now that we've kind of got those definitions out of the way, we're going to talk through real quick the helpful overview graphic. So when I started to think about what you guys should go through in creating a cult brand, these were some great steps to start with. So knowing who your target audience is, defining your mission and vision, researching the competition, identifying your brand values, creating your brand guidelines, and then finally promoting your brand. So this will only be an hour, so we're going to have to skip through some very high levels of these things, but we're going to try and get into as much as we can. So to start out, let's do it. Let's build your cult brand. So AKA, when you think of a cult brand, it's really loyal customers that want to stay connected forever. They want to tell everything about it, and you want to have ambassadors for life. So to start, you have to start with that person that you're going to look for. So number one, when I looked and tried to figure out, oh, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Oh gosh, that's funny. Thank you, Heather.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, you're totally good. Okay, is it good now?
You're good.
Okay, maybe I should backtrack a little bit. Okay. Okay, so we're talking about brand. So brand is the idea that it's the emotional and philosophical concept, where brand identity is the actual process of creating those visual assets. So that's what we think of in color palettes and logos. And then the brand design is how we establish the clear purpose and positioning of your brand and how you connect to your audiences. Are we still sharing screen? Thumbs up? Oh, good. Okay. Awesome. All right, so here was that helpful overview graphic. I won't make you guys listen to it again, but this, if you want to reference it in the future, is a great way for you to see where you are on the path to figuring and creating your cult brand. So let's do it. Let's build it. So this is usually second or third when people talk about it, but I love to put it as number one, conducting thorough market research. I think this was the hardest thing for me to do as a designer or in any context, because I was always like, I just want to get started. I want to pick the color palette. I want to choose my typeface. I want to decide what my values are all on my own. And I realized after taking the Jan Ryan's Women Entrepreneurship class was that is definitely not the way you want to do it. And I could best describe it as you're on a high dive and you're going to jump into a pool. And pretty much you're jumping into a pool without checking if there's water underneath. And so what market research allows you to do is get to know your customers before you invest money into, you know, the brand itself. Imagine if you invested $1,000 in packaging and you were like, black and white is the way to go. And you're like, I love black and white. I think it's so minimal. And then you get to it and it's in stores and no one's buying it. And you're like, why is no one buying this? And you do some market research after the fact, you realize people, maybe it's something that goes in people's homes. And they talk about, well, I wanted something that was a little bit warmer. I wanted it to be something that felt really welcoming. And so in that case, if you had been able to backtrack from the beginning and do market research, it's that way of just peeking over the diving board and being like, is there water down there? Will people like this? And this can be scary. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I think the first couple of times they're like, do customer interviews. And I was like, oh no, like it's terrifying. And so I think the best way to do it, at least I started, was reading the mom test, recommended to everyone, changed everything. And it really helps you understand, one, why it's so valuable to do market research, but also how to do it so that it is actually valuable and gets you the results that will be profitable in the end. So to start us off, I created a customer interview home base. So I'm not going to force you while we're on the call to go and send a cold email. I thought about it, but we're going to actually create a home base. So how many of you guys have a folder for your company, your idea, or your personal branding? I see like a couple people. Okay, nobody, that's okay. Okay, so what you're gonna do right now is you're going to create a folder and name it your company name, name it your idea name or yours. Oh, Aiden, I see a hand up. That means you got one. Yay, awesome. All right, if you don't, that's totally okay. You're gonna make one right now. And then inside of it, you're going to create a customer interview folder. So in that interview folder, I linked in the presentation cold message templates. One of them I stole from another resource, and one of them I've actually used in the past. And then also a tracker for who you've talked with. So this will become your home base for everything you need to start coordinating customer interviews. And let's say it's personal branding. You're like, I'm not starting a company. I don't really need, customer interviews. You still might, but it might be a little bit different in that, let's say you're a designer and you want to go into the process of starting a freelance business. Well, you still have to identify who your target customer is, whether that's small businesses or large corporations. And how do you tailor your brand to making sure that the way you present your work, the way that you design and create actually goes towards where you want to end up. So still totally valid and helpful. All right, so tip here, quick detour, is to always stay connected. Whenever you have a conversation with someone to talk about your company, even if you're in the ideation stage and you're like, this could be something in the future, and you don't have a newsletter yet, still ask them if they would like to sign up for your newsletter. You may never know that like 10 years down the line, if you finally launched, you can then utilize their email and tell them, hey, we've launched. Do you remember me from 10 years ago? So always stay connected. Okay, number 2 is establishing your mission and values. So I put a couple definitions here, is your mission statement. So this is an action-based statement that declares the purpose of an organization and how they serve their customers. Values are the set of guiding principles and fundamental beliefs. And positioning is who your target audience is and why you are better than your customers. So let's do mission first. So mission statement template is right here. You definitely don't have to stick to this if you don't like it or you have like a different vision for your mission statement, totally okay. I just love this one because it hit 4 really good points of the contribution and goal, what you offer and how you do it, your target audience, and your impact. So these are some questions that you can think through when defining your mission statement. So this mission statement, again, applies to everything. It can be individual to you or your company. So it's, what do we do? What do we create? Who is our audience? How do we make a difference? How do we differ from others in the industry? And how can we make our mission statement stand out from our competitors? And can we use other mission statements for inspiration? So here's an example of one that I pulled, which our mission is to increase the value and visibility of content by offering content marketing services for companies so they can build strong relationships with their audience. So you can see how it hits those points of the contribution, goal, what they offer, their target audience, which was companies, and the final impact that they want. So now it's your turn. So I'm going to set the timer for, let's do 4 minutes. And so in 4 minutes, we'll come back. If you already have a mission statement, that's totally okay. Maybe define what your vision statement for this year is. What is your mission or your vision for specifically this year for you? All right, ready? 4 minutes starting now. All right. We're going to do it a little shorter, but hopefully that's good. Is everyone thumbs up? Feeling good about your mission statements? Okay, very cool. All right, values. So we're going to go a little fast through the values, but this is a way, some helpful ways to help you define your values. We might not take the minutes right now, but the quickest or the easiest way that I've found to define your values is to list the things that are most important to you. And kind of imagine what you would want people to say about you or your company in 80 years, and think about what you admire in other people or companies to discover your goals and your values. So you're going to take, in the future, 3 minutes to write down those 10 values that you really want you or your company to have. And then I dare you to kind of rank them from 1 to 10 and circle those top 3, because those are going to become your values. And so you'll be able to put them into the presentation about what your values are and be able to reflect on them for the future. The other thing is to create a target persona. So this is step number 4. So why personas are so important, it allows you to get a deep understanding of a target audience. And it's fundamental. I don't know why this is a tongue twister. It's fundamental to create exceptional products and experiences. So personas help you create understanding and empathy with your customers. Sometimes it's easy to, make a ton of decisions because you're kind of just going through the motions, but it's important to think about your customer as a person that you get to talk to and think about and think things through that lens. And so this allows you to see them as real people and consider them during the design process. So we are going to do this one. We're going to do this one. I just saw it's 6:24. I wanted to be sure we got through as much as possible, but this is an example of a persona I made like a few years back. And so the idea was initially for a coffee company. And so Kate was the all-nighter, and you're able to learn about Kate, see her as a real person. So that way, as you're starting to design or create products or solutions for them, you're able to kind of be like, in your mind, have a conversation with Kate about what she actually needs or wants, and always be able to reflect back on that. So I made a quick persona page for you guys. You only have to do the ones that are in black, not in pink. Those are for later if you'd like to do them. So I want you to build a persona. We're going to take 3 minutes for this one. So you're just going to name your persona. Name that person who's going to be your customer, your client, the person who's hiring you for a job. And so you're going to name them, put their job, if they have a family, what their lifestyle is, their age, their income, and you'll give them a quote of what they would say about their goals and their challenges around your solution or what you do. And then the pain points that you are going to help focus on and that they struggle with that you want to target. All right, ready? 3 minutes starting now. All right, awesome. All right, and don't worry if you didn't get through all of it, it's totally okay. What's great about these personas is you can have more than one. So the KS WELI actually has 3 and almost 4 now that we reference. And so you can add as many as you would like. I think probably 4 or 5 is a lot to keep in mind. But if it's always best to start with 1, so you can always have them as your North Star. So this tip is actually from Kendra Scott, which I've heard her describe as she wakes up thinking of her. So she wakes up thinking of her target customer. And so they are your motivation and your North Star. It's that, 9 a.m. you're like, am I going to work on my startup today? Am I going to work on my personal brand today? And you have a lot on your plate. So waking up and thinking of them allows you to always start your day going, what am I going to do for them? What am I going to accomplish today that makes their life a little bit easier? And that sometimes helps give you a little bit of motivation. Also with decision making, anytime that you're like, should I do this? Would this be a good direction to head into? Think about what they would want and what they would say, and that can sometimes help. Always back with customer interviews though, but this definitely helps. Okay, so now we're going to get into the visual design. So creating a polished logo. So I love this like short, simple statement of simple, scalable, and memorable. I think this is always the best way, at least I prefer to go towards when starting out designing a logo. And so these were some things that I pulled together about what makes a logo great. So we kind of already started this, which gives you like a leg up, which is start with your mission and your values. So you guys will go back after this to kind of review what we've kind of talked through, and that'll help guide your values as well. But start in black and white. A lot of the times it's fun to just skip right ahead and go, I'm going to do red and pink and yellow and put it all together. But it's always important to start in black and white, because there will always be instances where your logo will live in just black and white. If it's in a context where someone has to change it, if you start working in partnerships, they might have to make it black and white, or you're printing in black and white. So always starting in black and white will also help you if you have like a pink overlaying, a blue. It might be hard to read once it's printed in black and white. So that's a great way to start. Keeping it flexible is the third thing. So can you identify small, large, or blurry? In many senses, you could start an app and it's like this small, or it's on a billboard and it's this big. So that your logo can be in many different types of marketing materials and sizes, or it's even printed blurry. Can someone still recognize it? Which you can still definitely do with, for example, the Target logo or the Nike logo, even if it is still a little blurry. Utilizing negative space. So when you think of the Target logo, it's got the circle with the smaller circle. That negative space is right there. If you decrease the negative space between those two, so the outer circle and the inner circle, and you scaled it down really small, you wouldn't be able to see that little inner circle. So that's why when you look at negative space, always try to utilize that and see it in that scale up or scale down. And also the logo is the face of your company. So in some cases, it doesn't always have to be exactly what you do or sell. For example, if you are for sure going to be dog walking only, maybe it does make sense to have a dog walking logo. But if it's something that you want to be a little bit more, unique or minimalistic, and you want to be a little bit more expressionist or impressionist or all the things above, but you don't always have to have the exact thing that you sell. And using geometry. This one is always a great one. If you feel really scared about, is this going to look good? Is this going to look clean? Start with geometry, work with circles. You'll see a lot of graphic designers utilize shapes to create the images that they want. I think this is also an important one, which is balancing your tagline. When you start to create hierarchy in your logo, I totally recommend looking into how to balance a tagline, how to make it the best between the different elements, and let your logo breathe. So this is about, if you have a box, you don't want the text all the way up against the box. You want it to have a good, easy kind of breathable energy that comes from your logo. And almost the most important one is ensure readability. That goes with the small or large. If you're creating a typeface and your logo is literally a typeface, you definitely want to prioritize readability, because if your logo says hello, but no one can read hello, that is probably not good. So that I think is the most important. So these were the 2021 voted best logos to give you guys some examples. And you can tell it's really, really easy to read. You know, Leapfrog has lots of breathability around the outside. The L doesn't hit into the green space. There's good overlay. If this was turned black and white, you'd be able to. Tums, not so much, neither this one. But for the most part, if you turn these black and white, they would still be able to be printed. So those are a couple of my recommendations. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take maybe a little less time. We're gonna take maybe 5 minutes to create, let's do 5 to 10 sketches. Depends on how fast you guys can draw. So you're gonna take a pencil and paper and just sketch. These can be the worst sketches in the world. Like, I am a designer, but my sketches are terrible. So it totally doesn't matter. Just start with what you envision for your personal logo, what you envision for your company logo, and we'll do 5 minutes starting now. Also, at the 2.5 mark, I forgot to include, if you already have your logo, you can also take this time to sketch some icons that you want to use for your business. So I wanted to throw that in there too. right, so as we round up the last 30 seconds, if anyone is really brave, again, no judgments. I have the worst sketches. If you want to link it in the chat, I believe there's a little button that says you can add, I think you can add a image. If not, we can share screen. So you can raise your hand or add an image in the chat. Or link an image. That's true. I can link an image. All right, we're done. Anyone brave enough to share? Totally okay if not. That's okay too. Okay, awesome. Just in case, I'll keep looking at the chat, but we can keep going. Okay, so this is another tip. So this is the memorable logo test. So what you're gonna do is after you've finished your logo, and it's in its beginning, you want to test it out. You can print out your logo and give it to a friend, and they're gonna look at it for 1 minute, and then you'll put it away and you'll ask them the next day to draw the logo. So if they struggle or it takes them a long time, you may want to ideate on your logo because it's difficult for them to retain what it looks like in their mind. So this is a fun way also to just hang out with friends and be like, hey, look at my logo for a minute. But it's also a good way for you to test it out. Okay, so if you don't decide that you really don't want to go with your sketches, it's not the way you want to go, I also wanted to put these options in there. There are a couple of free generators that I linked. Adobe has one, Canva has one, and then Luca also has one that the article at least that I read really liked it. And then you can also work with the designer. So try reaching out to UT Austin design students, see if they have like a, affordable fee, or Upworks is also a great place. I know a lot of people are able to get logos around 25 to 50 on there. So it's not too super steep compared to working with another freelance designer. So those are some options if you guys want them. And number 7, let's do it. So we're going to create an attractive color palette. So I recommend starting with 3 to 5 primary colors. And then once you get comfortable with those 5, then kind of add on a secondary color palette. I always usually recommend saying, be sure you always start with your primary, and the secondary is kind of like, for special occasions, but it integrates with those primary colors. So what makes a great color palette? So we're going to go to a tool really quick. So I hit the high points there's so much that has to do with color theory, but we're just going to hit the high points so it would be more than an hour. But I always like to say, don't forget about light and dark colors. So this is what you'll use for contrast when it comes to background and text, and those other colors can come into play in other ways, but always having those 2 are really important. And in many cases, you can just incorporate a black and a white as, your along with your color palette, but I usually recommend having those dark and light kind of colors in there, just because, especially as you can see on this presentation, is we have the light blush on the background, and then we have that darker color for text. What makes a great color palette in another way is to test how the colors overlay with each other. So, for example, you showed here, you can see how the dark blue looks with the light blue, the red, the yellow, and the tan. So that way you can see and test the different colors with each other, just in case you're like, oh, whoa, I did not know that yellow would look like that underneath. And so from then on, you can put into your brand guidelines, do not put yellow as the base background color. So there's different ways. You don't have to abandon it, but I would put some guides that help if you add on a designer or you start to take on freelancers, that they know not to put yellow as the background. Not that you can't, but just kind of figuring that out. And the other thing is, how does your color palette compare to your competition? So you definitely, if there's somebody in your target demographic and there's a competitor there, you probably don't want to be exactly like them. I mean, you totally can. You could go up against them, but if they already have a solid solidified branding, In many cases, you want to kind of defer to kind of be able to identify as your own brand within a target demographic. And so you can see here, there's also different things that come along with each color. This graphic is kind of dual purpose, but it kind of helps you make your own area. And so I gave this advice to one person, which I technically don't know if it's allowed, but she was wondering how to do her branding and how to check if her colors would be successful. And so I recommended, well, go into the area of the store that sells your product and put your prototype packaging in that space so you can see what does it look like really on the shelf. Does it stand out? Does it get lost? Because there are some stronger brands that are there, and how you can compete both digitally in the digital space, but also in the physical space, if that's something that you are also doing. All right, cool. So resource field trip. Hopefully when I click this, it goes to the right place. Okay. I don't know if it shared that screen. Is it still sharing screen? Thumbs up. Yay. Okay. So this is called colors.com. And so it's a generator that helps you create color palettes. So if you are like, I got color palettes down, totally okay. You can do it the manual way, which is building it out inside of an editing software. But if you want to use colors, which I still love to do because it helps me kind of like get some ideas really, really fast. It'll show you how to go through, and you actually hit the space bar to just have it go and test through different ones. And so you'd be like, oh, I really love this tan. So what you do, oh, sorry. It's a really loud street next here. But you just hit the lock toggle, and now you can test out different colors alongside it. So you can be like, oh, perfect, perfect. And keep going until you've built out exactly what you're looking for. I now have an awesome Nickelodeon fish vibe from this color palette. So this is a great way for you to build yours out. So what we're going to do is take about, let's do 2 minutes of clicking through colors. And you guys are going to build what could or could not be your color palette. And so just having fun with it. And seeing where it lands. We can do a 1 minute for this one. All right, ready, set, go. Aiden, do you want to share screen? I can stop sharing, and then while everyone's going to their colors, we can see Aiden's. I love that. Let's see. I think I can do that.
Apparently you need to unmute before you can share screen, or you can't unmute on the browser. Okay, trying again. I think I had it pulled up. So this is my company. I just launched this year. I'm in pre-production right now for my product, so I'm doing a pre-sale. And I worked with a friend of mine who is a graphic designer on creating the logo and branding. And can you see it?
Yeah, thank you so much, Aiden, for sharing. Yeah, and this is a good way to show also that logos can be different. Logos should be used for different options. So you should have vertical options and square options, and for different contexts, like logo could be, like the bee or the crown, for example, could be used on Facebook and Instagram versus the full logo mock-up. So this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone else have their colors? They've got their color palette. Thumbs up. Okay. Cool. And yes, Leslie, I totally remember when we had to design with UT burnt orange and Kendra Sky yellow. Awesome. Okay. Oh, I need to share. Oh, that would be bad. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so selecting professional typography. So readability is key. I always recommend, like when you're mixing fonts, 2, maybe 3 at the top, just trying to keep it super concise. I recommend having like a serif and sans serif, and not to over hyphenate. So that's just having that little like hyphen at the end. Just try to either send it back down or all that fun stuff with type. So these were another resource field trip. If you guys want to, I will make you go through this one because type is so much fun, and I want you guys to be able to explore all over because there's some really unique typefaces. But these were 2 that I found. It's called Font Joy and Typespiration. You can also go all over to find different type or font options to like piece together, try different ones, and just play around with it. My best recommendations, it initially was to start with 2, but I think as we kind of start to, I was like, no, I could start with 3, would be a serif, a sans serif, and a decorative font. Because I'm like, we love to have fun. We love the decorative fonts. It's too hard not to go forward without one, at least in my case. So serif and sans serif really help with that readability, and then having that decorative one can help bring a little bit of kind of your tone. If you're, depending on what it is, if it's more modern, if it's more like script, but just having that fun one that brings something out. And then I also recommend with fonts, identifying your font size. So in this case, that way, everything that you design, everything that you create holds this ratio, and will also make it really easy for you as you're designing to be able to go, okay, that's the size I want to keep it at, and everything will kind of fall into place in that way. Consistency is key. So I tried to find a bad branding example, but this was the best I could find. We're going to pretend that this is one brand, even though it's not. But I have seen this in some cases where many brands will be like, well, I love, it's Christmas or the holidays, and I'm going to make it blue and snowmen and light colors and orange and different things. And then when it's St. Patrick's Day, it's going to be green. And then they're like, well, it's a holiday party, and then it's a summer party. And then they have all these different colors. And so when you go onto their digital platforms, or you go into, hopefully not their physical assets or their products, are different colors. And so it makes it really hard for people to identify that it's the same brand. And so it's so very important that consistency is key. That way, if someone goes, oh my gosh, it's black and white, if that is what you're going for, you're like, oh, I know that brand. Easily recognizable, that you follow them or that you interact with them. Black and white is XYZ, or with Google, it's automatic, it's the rainbow colors. You automatically know with those colors it's Google. Or in many ways, it's just so helpful, especially for your end user, for your customer, that if they can easily identify it versus it being 8 different colors every single week, it makes it really hard to stay in touch with the brand, because you may not know that you're actually looking at that specific company in that case, if they're using so many different elements and different colors and different fonts. Okay, cool. All right, number 9. So I recommend creating a database that is a visual library of supporting graphics, design assets, icons, and photographs. So this goes back to that consistency is key. You want to have your brand tone and your brand voice always be consistent. And that also applies to your graphics, your photography. You'll easily be able to tell in some brands, oh, I definitely know that type of photography because they always do zoomed up images of their jewelry. And you never see the faces, just the jewelry. And so like that will be like, oh, easily recognizable. Design assets. If you go from, I'm going to do 3D iconography to 2D iconography, it can sometimes have a disconnect between that this is the same brand. So when you go forward with a specific graphic or design asset or iconography, you know, is it minimal versus really detailed? It might be more difficult to have a cohesive presentation of images, or you know, you're doing a pitch deck. If one of your icons is super minimalistic and one of them is like super detailed, there's that disconnect there. Okay, number 10. So number 10, this one's really deep and a lot that goes into it that 5 minutes cannot do, but I will try my best. All right, so marketing funnel. So this, we're getting into the customer journey with a brand. So how does your customer become aware of your brand, go to purchasing a product or service, and then become the brand's advocate? So your goal in the end is to build lasting relationships with customers. So this is that marketing funnel. So brand awareness is the first stage of the marketing funnel. It measures the percentage of customers who can remember the brand in some capacity. So there are a number of brand awareness metrics. And overall, it must be cognizant that a brand exists. That's what defined a person who's aware of the brand. And so that awareness in marketing is a major focus for new brands. Like you guys, if you're starting a new brand, this is probably where you're going to focus the most of your time, money, and energy into getting that awareness of your brand. And it's typically built through reach and the frequency of advertising campaigns, which I know can be a lot. It's sometimes a lot to be like, oh, I'm going to take on, you know, marketing and creating full campaigns and newsletters and all of that stuff. And I always recommend it's easier. It's to start by being consistent with a low amount. So when you're thinking of, okay, I'm going to start on social media, just think I'm going to do one post a week or one post every 2 weeks. And if you're doing a newsletter, start twice a year or once a year. And so even though it's not, you know, every single day, which might seem impossible, it's still that frequency and consistency that people will know, oh, I know that Sarah posts on Fridays, you know, like, and so they'll be expecting that that comes from you on that Friday. And so that's an easy way to get started. So the next one that, if you might be there, is brand consideration. So this is the second stage in the marketing funnel. So it's defined as the percentage of customers who would be considered or would consider your brand when evaluating their purchase options. The next one is purchase, which is the third step in the marketing funnel. The purchase stage is defined as the percentage of customers who purchase from a brand. As with the other funnel stages, consumers must be aware and consider a brand before making a purchase. And the purchase can sometimes be split into pre-purchase, the purchase itself, and after the purchase. You know, like in some cases, many of you might think of it as you go onto the website and then you get an email that says, hey, I saw you looking at this yellow purple hat. I'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot that I was looking at that yesterday. And you go, okay, I'm going to purchase it. Then you purchase it. You get an email that says, thank you so much for purchasing. Like, we so appreciate you, you know, giving to our small business. And so in that, you've created an experience for them. Then you have that last one, which goes, do you want to rate it? Do you want to interact with it? We'll give you 20% off if you rate the yellow purple hat. So really this marketing funnel is you considering what you're doing during that phase to get the customer to the next phase. So let's talk through brand loyalty. So the fourth stage in the marketing funnel is brand loyalty. So once a customer makes a purchase, it's not over. So the goal is to create and cultivate a strong relationship with the goal of fueling a repeat customer purchase. So that's that talking of after the purchase, what are you doing to retain that customer and keep them engaged? And the final one is brand advocacy. So that's where customers who are advocates for a brand brand, they're extremely valuable to marketers and to small businesses because they act to attract new customers. The brand advocates usually create like this brand marketing for free, and are like, hey, you know, they'll talk to friends, they'll tell them, hey, you should go purchase from this business. And so a customer overall through this marketing funnel gets from top to bottom. And what's cool is a customer can't go to the next stage until they've reached that previous stage. And so I always recommend when looking at this marketing funnel is to think about and define how or what is in place for your marketing funnel. When it's brand awareness, how do they get to brand consideration? When they go, do they go to interact with you on social media first, or do you reach out to them in some way? How do they then go to brand consideration? Are they signing up for a newsletter? What does that newsletter experience feel like? How do they purchase? What is that purchase experience like? What is that service experience like? How are you communicating with them and having them leave with a really enjoyable experience? And how are you cultivating that brand loyalty? Do they get something every month or every half a year? Or is there a way that you're able to bring the community together? And so that's where this marketing funnel is so incredible, is that it allows you to think through your customer's journey with your brand. All right. And next is get feedback. So we've been through a lot. And so it's always fun, and I always like to recommend is try, if you already have a customer base, send out what you're doing, have them vote on their favorite logo, their favorite color palette, have them be a part of you building your brand. And it gives them so much investment into your brand as well, because they feel like they had a part of building it with you. And it's also always great to just keep touch base with your customers on what they're wanting and what they envision. All right, so next up, or final step, maybe, is to define your next steps. So this, again, a lot of information thrown at you. So we want to make sure that this is actually achievable and a launching point towards creating your cult brand. So I linked there is the KS WELI community Slack. If you're not there yet, this is a shout out to the KS WELI community Slack. I want you to message me there and send me what your next step is. Is that finalizing and finishing your brand guidelines? Is that creating and defining your marketing funnel? Is that reaching out to a potential customer and doing an interview with them? Whatever it is, send it to me, and I want to hear from you guys on what your next step is and cheer you on as you keep going forward. But that is all. There is an actual one after it. It's a +1. I knew we would run out of time, so I was like, let's just put it at the end. But this is the company's personality. You can think of a person that would embody what your brand and how you would talk and tone, and also define where your brand stands on these different ranges of things. So that is a +1 if you would like to. That can also be your next step. But I'll stop sharing for here to see if there's any questions. Does anybody want to talk through anything, share anything? Thanks, Mom. Cheering me on from the sidelines.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be honest, I am in my lab right now, like working as I'm listening. So, but I really appreciate it. It was still really helpful. And for me, we're particularly interested right now in like our color palette, and we've been kind of like doing it on our own, and like we're the blind leading the blind, because my co-founder and I are both scientists, and like definitely design is not our forte. So we just even knowing the number of colors to start with and everything is helpful. And then on the color theory side, does Coloris like give or I don't remember exactly what it was called, but do they kind of give feedback on whether colors clash and stuff? Or can you get that somewhere? Do you know?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. If you want, I would love, like, we can schedule 30 minutes or 15 minutes, and like I can help you guys with like a color palette. And there's actually also, once you've defined your color palette, it's important to send it through an accessibility test. There's so much around colors, but would you want to? We could talk for 15 minutes.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
I'll Slack you and set something up.
Yeah, because I don't know if there is a clash tester, but I could definitely give you feedback on like if those colors go well together to help out in that way too.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and that goes for everybody. If anybody wants to talk for 15 or 30 or 2 hours, I love talking design, so it's great. Awesome. Any other questions, you guys? Cool. Well, I hope you all have a great week back. Good luck on finals, and happy holidays. Yes, and it's also shout out to KS WELI's community Slack. There's lots of awesome stuff there. All of KS WELI's updates are launched in there. Giveaways are launched in there. Job opportunities. So it's a great home base for all KS WELI resources.